Wisconsin is in the spotlight for over a year now as the labor force movement there is growing. This state is an issue, and this issue in particular are very important, especially today. Unions have traditionally been a power player on Election Day. But since 1980, union rates in America have plummeted, right alongside the middle class's share of national income.
And since unions are the top funder of the Democratic Party, if you get them out of the way, then Republicans arguably have a much easier path to elected office. So the question is, with union power diminished, do conservatives have an upper hand in tonight's election? Well, for more on this, let's turn it over to Stuart Acuff. He's an author and labor organizer, and Mark Harold. He's an attorney, author, and libertarian commentator. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's start off by talking about this diminishing union involvement. Fewer unions means less money going into them. That means less lobbying money. So what role do they play in this election?
A huge role, because our role is to move our members to the polls in an educated fashion. So we've got a 10-point plan for every union member in every key state, whether that's presidential, Senate, or House of Representatives, for a while now. And if you look at the demographics of the vote for each of the last 12 years, the only time Democrats win a majority of the white men is if they're union members. And so we're sort of like a firewall. Unions play the role of a firewall in high union dense states in the Northeast and the upper Midwest. The Republicans saw this. They had this plan to really crush union power with these state-by-state assaults on unions in Michigan, in Wisconsin, in Ohio, in New Hampshire, in Pennsylvania, in states that Democrats have to win to be able to win federal elections. We lost some of those battles, but we won most of them. And we won one of them very convincingly in Ohio, which we won 2-1. And having to have those battles allowed us to build our mobilization structure ahead of time. So we've been mobilizing for 2 years in these key states.
I mean, clearly unions are important to the Democratic Party, but beyond politics, unions seem to be really important to a well-functioning society. If you, the chart we showed earlier.
The truth of the matter is, Sam, that the reason we have a declining middle class and the reason we have this economic crisis is we have 35 years of wage stagnation.
Right, and that's
because
exactly,
of the decline of unions.
Yeah, that's the chart we showed earlier showed as union rates decline, so does middle class share in income. Before we had CEOs making 40 times what their worker has, now it's 500, upwards of 1,000. And this is where I want to get your opinion here, Mark, as a libertarian. You know, there's a lot of disagreement when it comes to what government's role is. But libertarians are just as afraid as progressives of too much corporate influence in government, a growing corporate state. Do unions play a role in mitigating this, I guess, encroaching corporate power that we now see all across America?
Yeah, absolutely, they play a role. You know, you have associational rights in the First Amendment, you have economic rights, you have political rights. There is nothing wrong with people collective bargaining, coming together to collectively contract with management or the corporation, whoever it is. The libertarians, most libertarians I know, the real problem is when there are direct interventions, whether to favor or disfavor, usually, lately it's been to disfavor unions, right. But when there's, you know, an actual piece of legislation, an actual attempt to referee it beyond what it needs to. I think a lot of libertarians think that the collective bargaining is a type of contract between management and labor, and the government should stay out of it the same way they should stay out of other contracts. I'll just say real quickly, I think this is one of the reasons that Ryan might have been a shaky pick, because of the relationships of the Republicans with unions in Wisconsin. Wisconsin is ground zero. The Rust Belt is a huge part of this election, and what we're with right now is if Romney wins, he's going to win without his state and Ryan's state. So when you bring a vice president with you who doesn't really appeal to their state at the moment because of this huge issue, you bring a vice presidential candidate who does not carry their own state, it's kind of a liability. So I think unions could be a huge factor in the outcome of this election.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What we have right now and what we're seeing is that unions are being attacked from all sides. We've seen Chris Christie attack, and we've seen so many people come after him.
We saw Democrats in Chicago.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Rahm Emanuel.
So let me ask you this. Because they're being decimated, do they have a chance right now of a resurgence? And if not, is there possibly a better solution other than unions?
Well, actually, That's a very good question, and it's one we're going to start struggling with tomorrow, because we need more worker organization, whether it's traditional unions with collective bargaining,
Or worker-owned co-ops.
whether it's worker-owned or worker centers for immigrant workers. We need to have a big fight in America about wealth and income inequality. Very dangerous, and that involves every middle-class person, every working class person, not just unions. And look, you can't have a political democracy if you have an oligarchy.
True. And you can't really have a democracy if you only have one-party rule too. And that's the thing, Mark. If unions are decimated, we have just 30 seconds left. Does that pave the way for one-party Republican rule? And shouldn't that frighten the hell out of all of us? I
think absolutely. As a libertarian, as a third individual who believes in third parties, I think one-party rule scares me. I think two-party rule scares me almost just as equally, because of how sometimes together these parties are big government issues. But absolutely, anything out of balance, whether any part of your life that's out of balance, politics, your own life, it's going to cause problems.
That's a great point. Thanks a lot. Mark Harold, Stuart Akoff, labor organizer. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you all.
And here now are election moments number 8 and number 7.
I'm just saying, you were for individual mandates, my friend.
You know what? You've raised that before, Rick, and you're simply wrong.
It was true then.
No.
It's true now.
Rick, I'll tell you what. $10,000? $10,000 bet?
I'm not in the betting business, but
okay.
I'll show you the. I'll show you the book.
I've got the book, and
we'll show you.
Now is the time to heed the timeless advice from Teddy Roosevelt. Speak softly and carry a big stick. End of quote. I promise you, the president has a big stick. I promise you.